All right. Okay, everybody. Good morning. It is 9 o'clock sharp, and I'm sure people will be connecting a little bit late, but my commitment is to start on time, so we're going to get started here. And welcome for all of you who, I think we've got a couple of new people on the phone. Welcome to what we call, I don't even know what we call this call anymore, but just to give you a little bit of a background in the world that we're creating here, we've been doing these calls. They started as leadership development calls / personal development. Well, they will always be personal development back in September, and we did a whole series of calls. And so if you're joining us for the first time, I will very briefly update you because today's topic, every week I kind of have an idea of what I'm going to share with you guys, but then, the universe is perfect, and certain things happen, and I'm like, I got to share this with the group. So for those of you who don't know, my name is Karla. I'm calling you here from Los Angeles, and like I said, we've been doing these call series now since September of 2013. So we've been doing this quite some time. And the whole foundation, for those of you who are on the call for the first time, and for those of you who have been on the call with us since the beginning, I want to remind you that this whole foundation of these calls is all about your personal development. What does it mean when we talk about personal development? What does it mean when we talk about personal growth? And what we're talking about here is really having self-reflection as far as like who you are, what you do, how do you respond to certain circumstances. And for the first 6 weeks, it was all about having like consciousness, having a self-awareness of how is it, like if I'm talking about myself, how is it that the Karla within me, responds to certain situations? How is it that the Karla within me, leads under certain circumstances? And so the first 6 weeks, we just have been having homework every week, but the first 6 weeks was all about, really putting together the discipline from something, and I keep talking about this, from making your bed, and the reason why I just want to give you a little bit of a reason why does Karla always talk about making the bed? Because to me anyway, that's like where I rest, right? And if I come into my room and maybe it's not completely neat, but if my bed is made, I feel like, like half of it is like neat and in order. And, one of the things that we talked about the first 6 weeks, and I'm going to remind you every single time, and that is without integrity, nothing works. Without having things in order, and integrity doesn't mean morality. Okay, and I'm talking about this because today's topic is going to be how do you respond under unknown, or how do you lead under unexpected, unknown situations? And the whole foundation of that is all coming down to self-awareness. So anyway, back to my recap, okay? So everything that we've been talking about has been about really taking the time to I don't want to self-analyze yourself to death, but really being aware, like, why did I just do that? One of the things I think a lot of people don't do, well, I'm assuming, a lot of people lack out there in the world is that they do something, like let's just say you say something, you do something, whatever the case may be, and then you just let it be. You don't, go back and think about, like for example, I'll give you a very, very great example. I'm in this USC Latina Leadership Academy, and I've got this project in mind. And after the class, a couple of us got together, right? And we were just chit chatting, and we're really comfortable around each other. We're all really great friends. I mean, we're colleagues. But then when the program is over, we're friends during the program too. But you know what I mean. So everybody was gone. There's just about 4 or 5 of us, and a particular person who I admire and respect very much. We have a really awesome relationship, and we're really open with each other. We're very comfortable with one another. And sometimes those situations can be challenging because I'm so comfortable around this particular person, right? And I admire her and I look up to her, but at the same time, I really like her and I enjoy her company. That she asked me a question, and I responded sarcastically, and the energy of my response was a little tough, and I don't want to say rude, but definitely not respectful, okay? And now the question is, when I did that, most people I think would have been like, oh, whatever, and they move on with their day. But and I'm not saying that I'm perfect by any means, right? But one of the things that I can really acknowledge myself for is having some self-awareness. And at that moment, I said, oh, don't worry about it. I'll just show you. Okay, that's what I said when she asked me that question. I didn't think at the moment. Obviously, when I said it, I wasn't thinking, nor did I think it was rude. But I did stop and look around and started noticing that the energy of the group kind of got a little tense. And then one of the girls that was there starts laughing, and she says, like, look at her about me. And at that moment, you guys, I felt like poop. But, and then, my friend was so great. She just started laughing. But I could tell that she was really uneasy about what I said. So, why am I saying this? Because one of the foundations of leadership, well, there's a couple, but one of them is really being self-aware. At that moment, I acknowledged to myself, I didn't say anything to her at the time, but I acknowledged to myself that, that was so not called for. And when I got in the car, and here's the thing, here's how you know, are you developing yourself or not? I got in the car, and at that moment, I was like, gosh, Karla, why did you say that? Like, I talk to myself a lot, okay? So I was like, gosh, Karla, why did you say that? Was that truly necessary to say? No. And I mean, and I didn't beat myself up, okay? Because another thing about that we've been talking about those calls are, how do you stop to talk to yourself? How do you speak to yourself? How do you think about what it is that's in your head about you, right? And at that moment, I didn't beat myself up, but I did take a time, and I mean, I did feel bad. I'm human, and I was like, gosh, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have said that. So that was a Saturday, right? And the following week, here's the thing. Here's when you have a sign of true maturity. At that moment, right, I sent an email because I will acknowledge that I was a little too chicken to maybe do it in face-to-face. And, I sent an email out, and I said, hey, you know what, I want to just take a moment about what happened last Saturday. When you asked me this question, I want you to know that I really respect you. Anyway, the point is I took responsibility for it, and, the even more maturity and the even better leader within me would have cleaned it up that day. But I will acknowledge that I didn't, but I didn't continue to step over it. So why am I saying all this, okay? Here's the reason why. So when we've been talking about these calls is being self-aware. Number one, if you did something, like I would call it like quote-unquote mess up, right? If you did something where you messed up or you didn't feel good about what you did, how do you deal with that? How do you actually acknowledge that for yourself? Do you just say like, oh, well, who cares, and move on? Or do you like stop and think about it, right? Do you stop and think? Like, for example, for me, for this particular situation, I actually stopped and thought about it. I'm like, okay, hang on, Karla. First of all, I will acknowledge I beat myself up for like 30 seconds. I was like, Karla, really, was that necessary? That was so rude. And I just like kind of like talked to myself, right? And I was like, really, girl? It was all coming from ego, by the way, okay? My response, and most of the times, when you respond out of impulse, like not, I don't want to say like anger, okay, but you just respond, like you fire out, 90% of the time, if not 99% of the time, it is not coming from a good place of your heart. It is all in your head and in your ego. And most of the time, the reasons being is because you're in a situation that perhaps A, you're threatened by, B, you don't have mastery over it, or just you're uncomfortable with what's going on because it's triggering something within you. So why am I telling you this? Is because just this yesterday night, one of the USC girls did a call, and she brought up this, well, something happened, which doesn't really matter. But the point is, it made me wonder, how do we respond and how do we lead under unexpected circumstances and situations? So one of the homework assignments that I'm going to give you guys this week is, if you recall the 5 levels of leadership that we discussed, okay, and for those of you who were not on those calls, I'm going to give it to you like in 30 seconds, and that is, sorry, I'm like drinking my shake here. One of those things is like the first level is, you lead by a title. People will follow you because of the title you have and because of the position that you play in that organization. Number 2, they will follow you. The second level of leadership is, yes, you've got a position, but number 2 is that they follow you, or you have influence over them because of of what you do for them. Like, they know that you have a good intention in mind, okay? So they let you follow, they let you lead them by permission. They give you permission to be their leader because they see that you have an invested interest in them. The third level is the third level. Okay, I'm drawing a blank. Okay, results. There we go. And that is, people will follow you and let you lead them because they know that you can generate results. So that you've got like a mission in mind, and they're in alignment with that mission. So therefore, they will want to be part of what you're doing because it goes right with what they want out of their life, okay, or what's important to them. And number 4 is that they will follow you, and they will let you lead them and have influence over them if they know that you have an invested interest in developing them, okay? And the 5th one is takes time. It's the pinnacle. I'm not even going to go over that. But the point is this. Here's one of the things I'm going to encourage you guys this week. And that is, especially because all of us on the phone, we've got some type of entrepreneur. And I really hope you guys listened to last week's call. Thank you for everyone. I've got, that's probably the one call that I got most feedback. And I'm so excited. Somebody texted me this morning. They're like, oh my gosh, we replayed the call from last week. And it was awesome. It really helped a couple of our guys hear exactly. They heard exactly what they needed. So for those of you, and then David, text me. I mean, thank you so much, because honestly, you guys, I run back from the gym to do these calls for you guys. So I'm so excited that you guys are actually getting value out of them. But anyhow, back to my point, and that is, last week we discussed about how we've got 3-person internal conflicts within us. And that is, you've got the entrepreneur inside of you, you've got the manager inside of you, and then you've got the technician inside of you. And these guys are always in conflict, right? We talked about that last week. I'm going to take this one step further, and that is, as an entrepreneur, you are put into situations every single day, if not every single week, at least once a week. And I want you to start noticing this, okay? You should be noticing everything, by the way, okay? But I want you to start noticing once a week, there will be a situation, a circumstance, a call, a comment, something that shifts your world, like shakes your world, And I want you to look at, how do you respond under that situation? Become self-aware. Like, how do you react, or how do you show up? What kind of leader shows up when there is a situation and a circumstance that is not familiar or unexpected to you, or that you don't have mastery nor influence in that situation? I'm going to give you an example. So in addition to the whole USC thing, I also coach at a landmark self-expression leadership program. Okay, every Monday I have this class that I attend, and it's led by one of the most unbelievable women. Okay, she breaks record worldwide in Landmark. So she's actually leading the biggest program that has ever been led in Landmark, a self-expression leadership program. So she's got 5 head coaches, she's got 20 coaches, and then 86, I think, participants. Okay, it's a huge event, huge program, okay? So we've got these meetings we've got this pre-meeting before the program starts. And in that, okay, I'm very active, I'm very opinionated, and I have a lot to say about a lot of everything, right? I put on events a lot, so whenever I'm in a situation where there's some kind of logistics thing going on, I feel pretty confident that I can contribute positively, okay? However, one of the things that I noticed, okay, because again, I do the homework too, and this is why this whole conversation started. I noticed last night, right, there were a couple of things that occurred and a couple of things that I knew that I could step in and play a role. But because I don't mean like I'm just a head coach, but I'm not the primary I'm not the boss of the boss, right? I'm a head coach, but I'm not the primary head coach. And at that moment, you guys, something happened, and my leader in me wanted to step up and step in and respond and contribute, and maybe not step on anybody's toes, but I could have turned around and said, "Hey Bob," let's just say, right? "Hey Bob, may I please support you with that?" Or "Hey Bob, do you need help with that?" Or "Hey Bob, what do you think about this?" Instead, I noticed that I just stepped back and said nothing. And So here's the thing I'm going to encourage you. At that moment, I thought, okay, why am I being shy? Because I am not a shy person. But why under this circumstance am I being shy? And I started pondering about this question, and I realized, okay, this is for me. I'm just giving you an example because next week we're going to develop on this. This is so important because if you're going to grow in a team, if you're going to grow as a leader, if you're going to grow in an organization, who and how you show up, who you're being every time is so important because as a leader, people are watching you, okay? That's just the role of a leadership. Is that all eyes, maybe not all, but a lot of eyes are on you. And the question is, how are you landing with them? What kind of perception do they have of you? What kind of image are you portraying every time you show up? Are you consistent? Are you a flake? Do you respond like just like a fireball and and throw up on people every time something goes bad? Or do you step back and think about it and then respond? So why I'm sharing this with you is because last night I'm sitting there and I'm like, Karla, why did you not – I'm like talking to myself, okay? And I'm like, Karla, why didn't you say anything? And I really got present to the fact that, every time – and I shouldn't say every time, but most of the time, if I'm around people that I admire, that I look up to, and that if they have mastery over that subject, okay, I take a step back and I do not contribute as much as I would if I was in a setting where if that person was not, and I don't mean better like that there's something wrong with me, right? But they have better skills or more mastery around the subject. If that particular person didn't have better skills and didn't have mastery, in other words, if I was, quote unquote, better and more mastery over that person, then I step up. And that's something for me to ponder upon. Like, why is it that I don't show up the same every time, regardless of who's leading and regardless of who is in front of me? And that's something that I'm gonna personally talk within me throughout the week. And I promise you that by next week, I know because the subconscious mind works like this, I will have an answer for myself. Okay, this is not to please anybody else, but this is just really to get a reflection of me. Why is it that under certain circumstances, I show up and I'm like, boom, here I am. Now, okay, granted, you want to be strategic. I'm not going to go to the White House and be like, well, listen, Obama, I'm the bomb, and so you got to hear me out. No, come on, you got to have, there's etiquette involved. There's strategy. There's all that. There's boundaries. There's respect. All of that. I get it. But here in this particular landmark situation, I am one of the leaders. I'm one of the head coaches. So when I saw this, I thought, okay, Karla, you know what? Step up. And so the moment this one particular girl comes up to me, she goes, Karla, every time the chair is empty, somebody's got to sit there. Like this, they have like this whole logistic thing in the landmark. And I confessed to her. I said, listen, Trina, let me tell you how this occurs to me. I don't want to step on anybody's toes. And guess what, you guys? I cleaned it up. I took responsibility, and I told her how I was feeling and what I was thinking. I said, listen, Trina, let me tell you how this occurs for me. First, I told her, okay, I got it, and I apologize for not taking lead on that. But let me tell you why I didn't, because I want to get this out. And she's like, okay, what's going on? And I said, listen, when that seat is empty, I don't know if I should sit there or not, because how it occurs for me is I don't want to step on anybody's toes, and I don't want to sit there, to be honest with you, and have the head coach look at me and go, what are you doing? And she's like, well, he won't do that because somebody's got to sit there. And I'm like, I know, but I didn't know if the other head coaches wanted to or if I wanted to. And as I was talking, I'm like, oh, my gosh. And I actually told her, I said, I can't believe all these considerations are in my mind and stop me. All because where I am afraid of taking leadership, and I will acknowledge that I'm afraid in the circumstance where I'm not the quote-unquote boss, I'm not the quote-unquote mastery, I'm not the quote-unquote person in charge. I don't want to seem aggressive, pushy, or stepping my boundaries. And that was a big aha moment for me last night, because I'm in a circumstance, in a situation where I am not, it's unexpected. It's, I'm not familiar with everything. I don't know how it runs. Like if I went to an Herbalife SDS, no matter where it is in the world, I know that I could walk in there and be of contribution because I know exactly how that's ran. But because this particular situation, I am not familiar with it. I'm not familiar with the political and all that stuff around it. Instead of asking, hey, how can I be of service? Instead of asking, how can I help? Instead of asking, hey, can I sit here? I sat in my chair and assumed and had all these considerations in my head, became shy, and became small. And so, I'm not afraid to share all this with you guys, right, because I am by no means perfect. But one of the things why I'm sharing this with you is one of the things I'm going to encourage you guys this week is to start looking at where do you do that? Where do you play full out? Under what circumstances, who shows up is this powerful, unstoppable, unwavering human being? And under what circumstances do you shrink and get small? And I'm also going to encourage you to start looking at who's around when you do one or the other. Under what circumstances? What are you saying to yourself? What are you thinking? My voices come in and sometimes and tell me, like, you're too much, Karla, and it's all because of, my family, just like everybody else's, is not perfect, right? But when I was little, people used to always tell me, my family used to say, you're too much, you're too bossy. And the other day, ladies, I'm gonna tell you this. If you have never been on TEDTalk.com, you need to go on TEDTalk.com. And I want you to watch, dang it, I forgot what the title of this thing is. But anyhow, it's the CFO of Facebook. And she wrote this book called Lean In. And she did a talk on TED Talk. Just Google Lean In TED Talk and watch it. And then she has another video, the second part of it, also on TED Talk. And I love what she said. She said, ladies, and she looked out to the audience and says, gentlemen, how many of you guys in the workplace have ever been called too bossy? And hardly any hands went up. And then she said, watch this. Ladies, how many of you guys in the workplace have been called too bossy? And like almost everybody's hands went up, right? And she said, here's the thing. When you have these young girls that know what they want and they're assertive and they're like, boom, and they go after what they want, so many people, and like I'm one of them, they used to tell me all the time I was too much and I was too bossy. Right? And guess what? You grow up with those stupid negative beliefs, because that's what they are. They're just stupid, right? And instead, I love what she said. She said, you now need to look at a little girl that's like not aggressive in a bad way, right? Not like bullying people, but like assertive. There you go. Assertive and affirmative, and she knows what she wants. Next time you see a young girl like that, you need to say that young girl has leadership, leadership quality, something like that. I was like, I love that, right? If somebody told me, you know what, you have such leadership qualities, granted, I grew up with a pretty healthy self-esteem, but I probably would have grown up without those stupid negative connotating beliefs that, that I was too much and that I was bossy. And so therefore, sometimes those voices take over and I shrink and I get small. And now one of the things that I'm going to do, just as I'm requesting for you to do, is to look at where do you do that? Where do you show up? And when do you lead powerfully? And when do you show up? And when do you shrink? And under what circumstances? Who's around you? What are you thinking? What are you saying to yourself? And the reason I'm saying this is because next week, one of the things we're going to do is we're going to build on that concept. Because there's something underneath that. Okay, and I'm not a psychologist, okay, but there's something underneath that is having you be that way. Because if you have a piece of paper in front of you, I want you to get this, and we're gonna end with this. I'm gonna open the lines, and please do not get off the phone, because so many times at the end of this call, people share something, and then somebody else has a breakthrough with the share. So I want you to just look at this for a second. From the left to the right, I want you to put 3 circles. So the left, put 3 circles like a line, okay? And on the left circle, I want you to write down be. In the middle circle is do. And on the right circle is have. And this is how we want to operate. So many people go backwards. So many people go from their left to the right. If only I had this, then I would do X, Y, Z. Then I would be happy, right? If only I had, $1 million in the bank, then I would do all the things I love to do. Then I would be happy, and tranquil or in love, whatever the case may be, right? But instead, if we come from a place of being however you want to be, therefore, who you're being, who shows up, will do what you need to do. Therefore, then you'll have what you want to have. And I'll give you a quick example before I open the line. And that was this morning. I went to bed, I think it was like almost 1:30 last night. Okay. And I'm committed to working out, in the morning because the evening doesn't work for me. So, I'm like, okay, I put my alarm at 5:30. Now, when I woke up, what I wanted to have was more time to sleep, right? But instead, you guys, the alarm went off, and I'm not going to lie, I didn't want to get up. I hit snooze, and then I sat there, and luckily my phone has like another like snooze. After 5 minutes, it'll go off again. And it went off again, and I sat there, and I laid there, and I just thought about it. I'm like, okay. And then I created a possibility. I'm like, who I'm going to be, and then I started to imagine, like strong, energetic. I started to focus on who I was going to be, how I was going to feel after the gym, how I was going to feel so energetic. I started to focus on all the benefits, and that got me to get up. Okay, and then I did some tea, and I took in my water bottle, I put a lift off, and before I left, I did 1 scoop of Prepare and a Meal Factor. So I got to tell you, if I'm speaking super fast, that's why. I had like this, I'm like, I need a lot of energy today because I hardly had any sleep, and I did legs today. So anyway, the point is, when you focus on who you need to be, everything else will fall into place. So what I'm going to do really quick, the last 4 minutes, I'm going to open up the line. I'm going to see if anybody has any questions, any comments, or any shares. And I promise you guys, we'll finish the call 35 after. So stay on, just in case you hear something that will definitely give you a breakthrough to your week. So spend a quick second, let me open the line. Okay, does anybody want to share or have any comments or questions? Hello. The lines are open. So does anybody want to share or have any comments or questions? Done?
Hello. This is David from White House. I just want to share something
David.
How you doing? From last week's phone call from the three.
Hey, David, hang on, okay? I'm going to close the line and just press start. Hold on. David, press star 6, and that will unmute you.
Okay, from last week, what I want to share is the 3 entrepreneur identities or mindsets, whatever we went over last week. I just want to say how, whenever you sit there, before you go out and do your thing, if you write your plan out, set your goals of what you want to do, have the vision, and then write down the plan, step by step what you're going to do, and then you get in your mind, it's like, okay, well, now all I got to do now is just execute. It makes it so much easier to do what you have to do instead of going out unprepared, not knowing what you want, so, it helped me out big time to be able to do my invites in a snap, instead of making it last a whole hour of walking around feeling awkward, not knowing what to do, looking awkward, just walking around not talking to anybody. It allowed me to know what I was out there to do, and it let me do my invites quick and easy, and I felt great.
Awesome. And you know what, David? You kind of already started working on this week's homework, and that is, if you think about, and I want you to just self-reflect on this for a second, when you didn't have a plan, when you were just going out there, how you showed up in a very unexpected circumstance, going out there to do your invites. You had no plan. You didn't know who you were going to talk to, where you were going to go. You had no goals, no nothing. So in an unexpected circumstance, and this is just for you to think about, how does David feel? What are the thoughts that went through your head? And how did you respond? So what were the body sensations that you had? What were the thoughts that you were feeling or thinking, when you went out there and you had no plan? And just think about that for a minute, and then self-reflect and think about when you actually went through the 3 identities that we talked about last week, and you had a plan. Everything was aligned. How did David show up? What was his body sensation? What were his thoughts when he had a plan? See, right now, so you're getting ahead of me, but this is perfect. Next week, we're going to talk about this because, David, that is your winning formula. See, now you know when you do X, Y, Z, who shows up is a powerful David. It sounds as if David doesn't like uncertainty. David doesn't like disorder and chaos, okay? And I happen to know you for quite some time now, and I can honestly say that's really you. Like, you're a very disciplined person. Like, if you know exactly what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, and when you're going to do it, like your workout, for example, I've seen you work out. You show up at CrossFit, you see the plan, boom, your mindset's already processing what you need to do, your body gets prepared, and you show up full out. But if all of a sudden I go, well, listen, what's the workout? I don't know. I bet you wouldn't perform as well, I'm assuming, when you don't know what the workout of the day is and you're just playing it by the cuff. So, see, now you know something about you. So whenever you want to alter, if something's not working, you say, okay, hold on, David. What works? Is this? Boom, you put structures in place. It's called a plan for fulfillment, and then you execute. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Awesome. Oh, thank you, David, for sharing. Anybody else want to share? Press star 6. We'll take one more share.
Let me open the line.
Okay, great. Does anybody else have a comment or a question? We'll take one more share. Anybody? Okay. If you don't want to share, no problemo. So I hope this was helpful for you guys. And so, I want you to analyze this and self-reflect on this throughout this week, because next week, David kind of already gave you heads up on it, is that some of you guys can come back and share, if you can text me or email me a little bit about what you got, because then we're going to build on that, and that is how to develop your winning formula so you can get into that zone whenever you need it. And the only way you'll be able to do that is by knowing what is that thing that gets you to move. What things are the ones that trigger you to make you actually show up full out, okay? So with that said, I'm going to end the recording. You guys, this recording will be played until next week. It's the same code, and the number, just the last 2 digits, changed to 99, okay? So with that said, may God bless you and have a wonderful week. Bye-bye.